Hey guys, welcome to the show. Now, first off, gotta make a big apology. It's been a really long time since I did the last podcast episode, and well, frankly, I've just been really busy. It's not easy to be a one-man show, and I have multiple businesses that I run, both online and offline. So every now and then something has to give, and in this case, that was MMA formula. But I'm back, created some more content, and doing the same thing here with you guys in a slightly different format. If you're listening to the podcast, it's just so you know that you can now see me do the podcast on the YouTube channel. Link is in the show notes. And I'm going to try to do that. I got this brand new awesome 4K webcam for Christmas early from my wonderful girlfriend, so I can start making easier recordings and with both good video and audio, because you just can't see it in the screen if you're watching, but I've got my good Yeti mic here in front of me, so the audio is much better than if I record with the crappy audio that my laptop came from. So that said, bunch of stuff to talk about. So I'm going to do a quick recap of Font versus Aldo, which was the last event that we had about a week ago. Lots of stuff that I could talk about. I'm not going to go too much into detail. I did a knockout breakdown of Rafael Fiziev against Brad Riddle, and Fiziev knocked him out with a spinning kick. It was pretty good, pretty interesting. So again, link will be in the show notes where you can see that, where I dissect basically that kick and how it was set up, how you can avoid getting tagged like that, because it's a classic, but also how you can use different variations or different techniques if the opponent in that scenario does something slightly different. So I'm going to refer to that video, so I'm not going to discuss it here. So let's take a look at the main card of Font versus Aldo. Moreno versus Mickey Gall. I'm not going to talk about that. That was a boring ass fight. I'm not really a big fan of either fighter. Again, as always, I always preface this. I have respect for everybody who steps either into the ring, into the cage, on the mats, whatever. Because all the weekend warriors and casuals and keyboard warriors who don't do that don't know what the hell they're talking about. Even the worst guy in the octagon still has my respect, even if he's total crap. He's putting his skin in the game. He's the man in the arena. So whatever you think of his performance, and we can criticize performances, that's fine. We can dislike certain fighters, that is fine. But they're putting it out there, and that is the big thing that I think we always have to respect when it comes to athletes, is that at least they're stepping up. Not everybody is. So that's Moreno and Gall, fine. It's just it was a boring fight for me, so I didn't enjoy watching it. So I'm gonna leave it at that. Next one, middleweight, was Chris Curtis versus Brendan Allen. I'm really thinking about when I'm going to do the end of the year awards, which will be coming up soon at the end of the year, obviously, where I'm going to do my award ceremony like last year. I'm really thinking about making some sort of category about, the best haircut in an MMA fighter, because I mean, this card here had a couple of guys who were rocking that mullet like it was, somewhere in the 80s or late 80s, 90s. I was around back then, so I remember those times, and it was pretty spectacular to see those funky haircuts that I thought were completely out of style. Apparently not. They're back in. Okay, good for you guys, but you're going to look back on that decision to step into the cage with that haircut later on and go like, what the hell was I thinking? And your children will never let you forget that. So again, the fight was okay. Just that at one point, I mean, Curtis managed to tag Allen pretty well, and then the fight was relatively quickly over with. So not terrible fight. It was okay. It was fine. There was an exchange, and that's kind of where the beginning and the end started for Brendan Allen, is when he kind of got clocked by Curtis while he was staying a little bit too close into the pocket, and then he got tagged because of it, and that was, then he got beat up some more until the ref stepped in. But Point is that I've mentioned this before, and I mentioned it in my latest video about Viziev knocking out Riddell. It's about this concept of understanding distance, range, zone, and orientation, and so on. And a very easy concept is where you imagine that you're standing in your guard facing the opponent, and you imagine like a light beam from a flashlight that's just streaming out of you. It goes in from a cone from narrow outward. That is the zone in which you can most easily influence what happens and attack your opponent. Now you want to keep him in your flashlight, and you want to keep the other guy as much as possible in a position where his flashlight, you're just outside of it. So that if you're at, say, a 90-degree angle towards him with you in his flashlight, and his flashlight is pointing 90 degrees off to the side, yeah, that's when you can beat him up. I wouldn't say without consequence, but you could do a lot and he can do very, very little other than trying not to get knocked out or taking too much damage. So point is, if we have the typical situation, if you've got both guys standing face to face and both their flashlights are facing each other, then you've got this thing here where you have this zone in between both of them. That is where the action is, where you can hit hard, but you can also get hit. So how you step into that zone, how you enter that zone, how long you stay there, and so on, that is a critical element of all combat sports, but in particular MMA, because in MMA there's so many options and techniques that are possible. And it could be stand-up, it can end up with a clinch, could be striking, could be hand fighting, could be a takedown, and so on. So there's so many options that if you are not aware of where exactly you are in that zone that I just described, that is very easy to get tagged. And this is, in my opinion, what happened to Brendan Allen. He stayed a little bit too close, fired a punch, got countered almost simultaneously, and he went down, and that was the end of it. So be mindful of that distance. So next up, Clay Guida. Clay, my man. I mean, he submitted the Leonardo Santos, not really well known. Clay's 40. He's been fighting for a pretty long time. You know, I like Clay as just, I mean, as a personality. I'm just checking here. He had his first fight, I think, in July of 2003. It's been a long road for Clay Guida. I mean, he's been going for a pretty long time. Let me see, 37 wins, 21 losses. Only got knocked out twice, which is surprising. From recollection, I thought it was more. But here's the thing: as much as I like Clay as just a guy, and as an underdog, he is still the underdog. And the point is that he's getting to the point in his career where it's very unlikely that's going to happen for him. I mean, if you're honest, can you see Clay Guida as basically becoming the lightweight champ? I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. So he's definitely earned the respect he gets. I think with a relatively limited amount of talent, he got as far as he could take it. And that is no disrespect towards him. We all have a measure of talent. If you've been to the gym, you know these guys. They come into the gym, they start training, and they just pick up techniques all the time rapidly, and they advance in leaps and bounds. Not everybody is like that, and there's nothing wrong with saying that. And in my opinion, I mean, watch Clay Guida in the beginning of the fight. The way he moves is a little bit stiff, is a little bit awkward. The footwork, the head movement, and so on. It's not bad per se, it's just that it's not as smooth as when you compare it to some of the more skillful and talented and athletic guys that are out there. And that's fine. Not everybody can be a champ. But respect for all the work he did. He went at Santos. Now, Santos at first was going after him and kind of, tired himself out. And that's where we can see that the experience that Guida has basically helped him out, and just, I mean, he just kept on grinding until he get that submission. So if you look at Guida's record, and I'm just pulling it up here very quickly, you'll see that I mean, in the last few years, so he won now, lost to Mark Madsen before, won from Michael Johnson, 2 losses, Bobby Green, Jim Miller, 1 win, BJ Penn, lost Charles Oliveira, 2 wins, 2 losses, 1 win, a loss, win, loss, win, 2 losses, and so on. And I'm already going back 10 years by just describing this here. Again, it's not going to happen for him anymore. And this is a point where you have to see that, okay, it gets dangerous as a fighter past a certain age to still compete at that level. Again, plenty of evidence, scientifically speaking, out there about just the cost of taking these punches to the head and kicks to the head and so on. Cognitive damage, cognitive problems, brain damage, and so on. So I don't like to see fighters, that stay too long in the ring or in the cage, and then like 5 to 10 years later, you see them again in an interview and they can hardly talk, or you can clearly see that they have a lot of trouble. Because I know where that leads, and eventually they're going to, the end of their life is going to be really bad in many cases. So for that, Clay, my hat's off to you. You took it as far as you could take. Very happy that you get this win, but maybe it's time to hang up the gloves, or if you really need to just do one more fight. But yeah, right. So let's move on to light heavyweight. So Jamahal Hill defeated Jimmy Crute. Jimmy Crute in his last fight got his legs kicked just completely into little bits and pieces, and in this fight, I kind of like Jimmy Crute. Just this big lumbering guy. Same thing, rocking an awesome haircut. But he got tagged, man. He got tagged pretty good there. And the main thing that you can say is that the punch that put him basically on the ground, if you watch it, you'll see that he steps in for this big power shot, and Hill is kind of a lot more technical in how he handles that with his own, I think it was a right hand, like this long hook, if I'm not mistaken, and it just lands and Jim is down. Point is this: it shouldn't be this way. It's 2021. The UFC has existed for decades now. MMA for longer than that. So it shouldn't be revolutionary for me to say that, guys, at light heavyweight and at heavyweight, you don't have to hit full power every single time. You don't have to throw in the kitchen sink with every technique you do, especially when you're punching. Watch Jimmy's fight again. You'll see he throws, 2 kicks, and when he misses, he spins completely around his axis. It's fine, but this is how you get countered. Ask Sarah McMahon what happened when she did that against Amanda Nunes. You'll see. Look up that fight again, see what happened. And that's kind of the point here. Is still you see all these guys just throwing bombs all the freaking time. And then they're faced with somebody who is actually a little bit more skillful, who doesn't necessarily throw these power shots the whole time and just boxes their faces off. Again, I'm not going to say that Jamahal Hill is the best striker out there, but he did a really fine counter against what was an incoming death blow that was really powerful, and he handled it well. So start to see Jimmy go down, and we'll see what happens with Mr. Hill at light heavyweight. Right, so then next we had lightweight. Again, Fiziev, Riddle. I'm not going to get into that. Watch the video. I broke that down with more detail. Was a good fight. I gave it more. I was more along the lines of Fiziev seems to be a little bit stronger here in this fight, but Riddle was actually very competitive still until the end. And then we get to Aldo versus Rob Font. A good fight. I was looking forward to that, especially when you watched Aldo's previous fight, in which he showed a lot of progress, and just really exciting the way that he could fight. There were glimpses of that by Rob when he fought Rob Font. There was some fun stuff, and I was watching with my kids, and I told them that, look, at a certain point, I think it was one of the later rounds, maybe 3, 4, I'm not sure anymore, where he throws what looks like a kind of sloppy 1-2 to the body. Just kind of a little bit more looping punches, just a combo that I've seen him throw before. And it looked a little bit crappy. And I said to my kids, like, okay, either there's something going on here or this is a setup. And what do you know, a little bit later, he throws pretty much the same combination, but pretty tight. I mean, really tight punches and much, much better on a technical level. And that's what I like to see with a guy like Aldo, who's just, I mean, his striking's always been really good. But ever since he started boxing in that Navy Boxing Club, he's, in my opinion, he's gotten even better. And we saw him do some low kicks, not as much as in the beginning of his career, but still he threw a couple. And the only thing that I could say is that as a fan, you don't want to see the kind of ground fighting that they did all that much, because Aldo would, on the ground clearly dominate Rob Font, as in he controlled him pretty well, he controlled his position and so on, but he didn't really do much with it. He wasn't really going for submissions. He wasn't really doing any significant ground and pound. It was just doing what he needs to do to win the round. And then as a professional, obviously that makes sense, because you're winning, you don't take a lot of damage, and the other guy has to do all the work to get out of there. Fine, so that makes sense on a tactical level. But obviously that's not the most exciting fight for us, the fans, to watch. So when you see that kind of thing happening in what is a pretty big fight, it's the main event, it's kind of sad in the sense that we just want to see Aldo knock somebody out. Well, I do. Again, no disrespect to Rob Font, he's a great guy, but I've been a fan of Aldo for a long time, and just always liked the way he fought, and was hoping to see another really banging performance, and got a little bit let down here. But again, he won, so he's moving on, and it looks like he might get another title shot soon. Who knows? And I think, again, Aldo has been in the game for so long, he deserves another one, in my opinion. I mean, the guy has never been the biggest star in MMA, especially in the UFC, that he, in my opinion, deserves to be. I think the UFC didn't really do as much for Aldo as they could have, promotion-wise and so on. Okay, it's fine, but I'd be okay with Aldo getting the title, doing one or two more fights as he retains the title, hopefully, and then just ending his career. Just quickly going to check, because I think it's 35. Yeah, it's 35. Okay, it's getting into that zone where it's still possible, but better not wait. All right. Okay. So I'm going over the channel comments on YouTube. So on the Video of Knockout video, I had a question from Solid Snake. He said, very good analysis. I would like to see you do another analysis video for this week's UFC 269 card. I typically do knockout analysis after there's been a knockout, so I'm not going to do that. Just looking at the fight card itself, so that's UFC 269 Oliveira versus Poirier. I'm going to go quickly. Bantamweight Rolian Paiva against Sean O'Malley. I don't know Paiva all that well. I think Sean O'Malley has a lot of potential, and that he can definitely. I mean, he's got really good striking. We'll see how it goes this time, but I think he definitely has a chance here to dominate in that fight. We'll see, because he was injured before, if I'm not mistaken. So we'll see how that plays out. It's always difficult. Difficult is to basically figure out, like, okay, what's actually going on here. How well has he recovered? Next up, Kai Kara France against Cody Garbrandt. No idea. Garbrandt is, for me, one of those guys who kind of is missing his career. He's got a lot of potential. He had a lot of potential. I think most of his problems are on a tactical level, in the sense that his temper seems to get the better of him. I mean, I think it was the second TJ Dillashaw fight, if I'm not mistaken, where he just throws like the big right hand, if I'm not mistaken, and he gets countered, and Dillashaw lands his shot and Cody doesn't. Cody takes a step back, throws it again, same thing happens, throws it one more time, and that's pretty much the end of the fight. So he's, from what I can see, I think too emotional, and that is very sad. That's actually quite sad when you see that happening, because it's, I mean, look at the fight he had with Dominic Cruz, where he was in total control of himself, even, breakdancing in the cage at one point, and Cruz with his awkward style got nowhere. And Garbrandt was really, really doing great. So he could be that guy. He has championship potential if he can maintain his composure, stay focused, and not get emotional. So we'll see what that gives with KK France. I have no idea. It's a little bit hard to call. Same thing for Geoff Neal and Santiago Ponzinibbio. So far, the fight doesn't interest me all that much. We'll see what that gives. I'm not going to comment all that too much on that. I will comment on the women's bantamweight fight, Amanda Nunes versus Juliana Pena. We'll see. I was never really all that impressed by Pena. I think she has potential, obviously, but her striking, for me personally, wasn't really, where it should be. And she hasn't fought all that much. In the last 3 years, she fought 3 times. So that's not a lot. That's really not all that great. She fought in January of this year against Sarah McMahon, whom she submitted. So that's not really, she hasn't been all that active. So I don't have a lot to compare when it comes to just how much progress she would have made. I don't see it. Now, Nunes, a little bit tricky. We know she has problems gassing and in later rounds. So if Pena can survive for, into the 4th and 5th round, that would be great. And then she, I think, has more of a chance, but we'll see. As always, the promo stuff happens, and you've got, UFC does all these mini documentaries on the fighters, and I just watched the one with Nunes where she says, yeah, people think that I can't last 5 rounds, but I've actually been working hard and staying in shape and this and that. Then Pena says that, well, she hasn't been training, blah, blah, blah. So all this kind of nonsense always happens, and it could be true, both of them, that she hasn't been training, and then that she started training for this fight in fight camp. Who the hell knows? As always with the press and what you see online, I always take it with a huge truckload of salt, because it's just all the promo stuff. It's blah blah blah. Just don't look at it too much. Take it at face value and move past, and then watch the fight, and we'll see if Amanda is in great shape or not. We'll see if Juliana actually made a lot of progress with her striking or not. Nunes stands really well. Her basic fighting stance is great. She's typically well balanced. She typically doesn't strike herself out of position or off balance, whereas Pena tends to do that every now and then. The thing I see mainly is that Nunes tends to be a little bit sloppy at times, just because she's hitting so hard and is very accurate with her striking. So there might be an opening there for Pena, but I kind of doubt that she's going to get it. When it goes to the ground, we'll see. I think they both have a good shot there. I think for me personally, the biggest thing is going to be, will Amanda come in great shape or not? Because I'm pretty confident that Juliana is going to come in just totally ready for 5 rounds of war. I hope so. I hope I'm not going to have to eat my words, but I think she'll be pretty much ready for that. And if Amanda hasn't been training, it's going to be hard. It's going to be really hard. So if I would have to put money down, I put it with a little bit of an edge for Amanda. But again, the biggest unknown for me is Juliana. How much progress has she made? She hasn't been fighting all that much. Now with Nunes, it's not that hard. She's been fighting a lot, but we know what she can do. She's been consistent in the way that her striking has been on point for fights on end. We know what, technically speaking, she can do with Pena. And we'll see. Right, then the main event, lightweight, Charles Oliveira versus Dustin Poirier. Really looking forward to this fight. I kind of like both guys. Oliveira's not really the guy to, do a lot of shouting on social media. Dustin a little bit, but still okay. His his post-fight interview after his last fight with Conor McGregor was like, something along the lines of everybody who boos me, you can kiss my whole asshole. That just had me in stitches because it was that is so Dustin Poirier. So I kind of like the guy. He's funny. Seems like this guy who's genuinely himself, who's not putting on an act. And Oliveira seems to be more quiet and soft-spoken in the interviews that I've seen of him. Here's the thing. We know Oliveira can be hurt. Chandler hurt him in their fight. You could clearly see it that he was rocked. Now, Chandler is extremely explosive. Dustin is not as explosive. That said, what we've seen from Dustin is a lot of tenacity. And when he smells blood, he just keeps going. Ask Justin Gaethje, ask Eddie Alvarez, ask Conor McGregor in their second fight where he knocked him out, is when he sees that you're hurt, he tends to stay pretty focused and goes to work, and it just rains down punches on you. And it doesn't stop until you're down. So if he can manage to tag Oliveira with a good shot, and definitely looked sharp with his striking in the last McGregor fight, I think he has a shot at either rocking him, putting him down, and then we'll see what happens. I mean, Dustin's pretty good on the ground. Obviously, Oliveira clearly is. So I kind of want to see what happens on the ground there. The striking, Oliveira's striking is also pretty good. If you watched, again, the knockout against Chandler, the way he countered with that left hook was beautiful. Again, I also have a breakdown video of that one, so that was just picture perfect with the left hook. And when you watch his training, it's definitely a very nice Muay Thai influence. So I don't think in the striking department that Oliveira has to be the lesser man compared to Poirier. I don't think so. I think they're pretty much even, though radically different styles. Poirier is a lot more plodding, a lot more heavy-footed in my opinion, whereas I think that Oliveira moves a little bit better. But then again, Poirier has, in his awkwardness, he has this high elbow defense that he often likes to use. In his awkwardness, he's actually quite efficient and dangerous. You could see in the last McGregor fight that McGregor, who's known for his striking, obviously, especially his left hand, but his boxing is obviously pretty good, that McGregor couldn't just land at will. It's not like he could just punch Dustin's head off. Same thing in their second fight. You could see that even though he was trying, he often got countered. McGregor got countered by Dustin when he stayed too close. So it's not like Oliveira is just going to waltz over Dustin Poirier with his striking. I don't see that happening. Hard to call this one, really hard. For me, if I have to choose, I kind of want to give it to Dustin because again, this is subjective. It's not objective. But I think Dustin might have a slight psychological edge over Charles Oliveira. Could be wrong, but I think he might be in a little bit of a better position psychologically speaking. I'm just going to go over to Oliveira's latest his track record. So he fought Michael Chandler, okay, potential champion. He fought Tony Ferguson, who was not really the Tony Ferguson we knew. Then we've got Kevin Lee, Jared Gordon, Nick Lenz, David Tamer, Jim Miller, Christos Galagos. He won from Clay Guida. So those are not in my opinion, the biggest names. So then you go to Poirier's record, and he fought McGregor, Dan Hooker, Khabib, Max Holloway, Eddie Alvarez, Justin Gaethje, Anthony Pettis, Eddie Alvarez again. That was no contest with that fall. Michael Johnson. I mean, he fought a lot of guys who were pretty much at top level in the game. So, in my opinion, the experience that Dustin got from just fighting all these high caliber guys, Charles didn't get the same level of opposition. Doesn't mean he's not great. Doesn't mean he doesn't deserve to be champ. Every athlete's path towards championship is always going to be different from anybody else's. So it doesn't mean that Charles had an easier time. Just that Poirier's had a lot of really rough fights where he just had to just dig deep to keep going. And when you look at it that way, I would give him a slight advantage over Charles Oliveira. So that's the way I see it. This is just again my opinion from my experience. Really looking forward to the fight, and we'll see what happens next. Okay, guys, that's pretty much it. I'm gonna wrap it for this new podcast episode. Got more stuff coming up on the YouTube channel. Obviously on the Patreon, I have several things that I post there every month. So if you want to support the channel, you're always welcome to do that. I appreciate that a lot. That's what pays for the hosting of the podcast and all that other stuff. So check that out. Got some more stuff that I'm planning on doing. It's all just a matter of having the time to do so. That's the biggest channel. So in the meantime, I want you to give a huge uppercut on the like button, and then I want you to squeeze the crap out of the subscribe button, and then just give a nice horizontal elbow on the share button and share this with your friends who are into MMA like we are. Okay, that's it. Signing off. See you guys next time. Bye bye.